Qlik Dork back again. Today I'm filming Dorkcast episode 30 here live from my Data Cathedral studios in always sunny Gainesville, Georgia. Don't worry about these surrealistic art drawings that I've done here with clouds. There's not a cloud in the sky here around me, but there may be clouds with a Q around you for your SaaS tenants. Now, today I've got with me multiple guests who are going to help me walk through this. My first guest today is Martin Salen. And what I love about LinkedIn is you could be anybody you want on LinkedIn. I'm a data cathedral architect. That is not what Qlik pays me for at all. I've got real titles, but who cares? I want the world to see data cathedral. So that's why I am. Now, Martin, yours really caught my eye. You are an ice hockey player. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so thank you, Dalton. Well, I am a hockey nerd and a data nerd. Unfortunately, I wasn't too good at ice hockey, so I had to do a career within data and analytics instead. So hockey is my hobby, and that's where I spend a lot of my time. But fortunately, I've also been able to work together with Qlik, combining hockey stats, analytics in ice hockey, and Qlik Cloud to build a Qlik Cloud-based platform called Hattrick for analytics of hockey stats, analytics in sports, which is another story. But yeah, I was happy to combine my two worlds of love.
Nice. And I've talked to Martin many times in the past. I love talking about data, but I do love seeing your hockey posts. It's always, I work with female athletes, and I love seeing people who have a passion for analytics and tie that to data with analytics. We could probably do a whole doorcast on your analytics around hockey and what you've done to help your team.
Sure.
My next guest is Michael Ehlers. And Michael, you are a BI wizard. I guess it's because most people think things are just magic.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good description of it. So yeah, we spend a lot of time like helping companies fixing their BI. So like getting from data into insight. I think it's really cool. But also like it's also combining from this with the cloud, we're combining the more technical stuff, but actually delivering value into the customer. So I think that's pretty cool. But it's sometimes magic.
Making it look simple for them, right?
Yeah, but that's also like they shouldn't worry about like this technical stuff. It should just work for them. So I spend a lot of time with that.
I like to let them focus on their business side. My next guest today is Elias Ismail. Elias is the real BI wizard, apparently not the fake BI wizard.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your background, Elias.
Yeah, so I have a software development background. So as Michael mentioned, we love to do a lot of stuff with Qlik, and yeah, we get to do stuff that people it just works, and that's why Michael is the BI wizard and I'm the real one, because I'm down in the code. I'm doing the hard labor, right? No, I'm just kidding. We're all like a big team who works together and to build these cool products that we are excited to show.
Nice. And I got to tell you, folks, I love working with coders. I love talking coding. That is my longtime background. I've been coding for 42 years now. I love the coding. At this stage, I love talking about it and storytelling about it to try to help people, like Michael said, focus on the business side, forget about the coding. But the real deep coding, that's where it is definitely at. I know everybody can multitask. And so while you're watching this, feel free to go out their website. It's pretty simple. It's cloudcoverwiththeq.com, and you're going to find information about what we're going to be talking about today. If you were at Qlik Connect like I was, they had a really fun booth, which is where I got the idea for my surrealistic image that I shared on my first page. They had a bunch of umbrellas up around puffy clouds in their booth. It was really eye-catching, and y'all had some phenomenal stuff there. So feel free to go out to their website while you're watching this. I know you've got 4, 5, 6 monitors, some of you sharp people out there. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we can talk a little bit. From a high level, what is Cloud Cover? Why did you guys build Cloud Cover?
Maybe I should start from the business side, and then I'll hand over to my my more techie, smart colleagues. So first of all, Cloud Cover is like an umbrella name for a number of products that we have developed for Qlik Cloud. So for example, we have the migration tool from Qlik on-premise to Qlik Cloud. So why did we do that? Well, when you work with people like Michael, Elias, and all our other colleagues, they are not very fond of doing repetitive stuff over and over again. It's boring. They always try to come up with smarter ways to do stuff. So after one or two migration projects, they said, well, we should automate this. We should automate this. We should make this quick, simple, and with high quality instead of having manual work.
Yep.
And they went away and they came back with this amazing product called migration tool for Qlik Cloud. And yeah, that's sort of where that started. And then we have another tool I think we might look at today, which is our Qlik Cloud backup. And again, companies want to go Qlik Cloud. Together with Qlik, we work with giving Qlik access to everyone in the business, capacity model, and so we want to have like self-service business users, just working with data, doing a lot of cool stuff. But with great power comes great responsibility. So if you have the power of doing great stuff, you could also have the power to delete or destroy things you've built in your Qlik Cloud environment. And with Qlik Cloud, of course, you have a disaster recovery if everything goes down, but you don't have a backup if someone deletes an app or a space that you've been working on for a long time, or Dalton, your automations that I know you destroyed a couple of weeks ago and they're gone forever. You should have had cloud cover. But yeah, so that's also
should have.
So the reason is, of course, to help our customers to stay happy with Qlik Cloud and be creative. And if you're creative and something goes wrong, we've got a tool for you to back it up and restore whatever happened that went wrong.
Nice. And I think that I'm looking forward to you guys showing your backup solution. When all of our stuff started moving to the cloud, we have a partner engineering team that I'm part of. We build a ton of apps. And with Windows, there's a million tools for you to back up everything. And you just know my entire Qlik directory is backed up. Any data files I'm working with backed up, easy breezy. Just press a button, it's set up, it runs. About your biggest worry is making sure that your network scanning software is off for those directories so that you're not locking up files and not letting them get backed up when you want them to be, that kind of thing. We moved to the cloud, and one of the first things I did was lost some screens. I'm going to make these private, and instead of making them private, I said delete. And I was like, oh no. When Qlik came out with our application automation stuff that was from Blender, when we had purchased Blender IO years ago, I kept looking for what can I do, like you explained about Elias and Michael, things that I hate doing. I can do them manually, but I would rather not have to, because I err as a human, and it's like, I'm just going to make one small change. I don't need to waste my time backing up my one app for my one small change. And then I realized, wow, I could go through automations and back up my apps. So early on, I started backing up all my apps. But as you already alluded to, just last week, I ran into a case where I deleted an automation. I was like, ooh, I probably should have had my automation backing up my other automations to make sure I didn't lose that. And you guys actually back up a whole lot more than that. And one of them I'm going to wait and share when you get to the screens. I want people to see, because they're like, oh my gosh, that is a game changer for me, because the things I have to go through now to accomplish the same things isn't as fun. So looking forward to you seeing your stuff. For those of you who are considering moving from on-prem to the cloud, I think you really want to pay attention to how their tool works. Makes your life easy. And as we get into it, I'll share some other thoughts. So who's going to share their screen for their demos?
It's not going to be me.
Oh, Elias.
I guess it has to be the real BI wizard.
The real
right?
BI. See, we know who the real BI wizard is when they're the one sharing their screen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You've been found out, Michael.
yeah.
So the ultimate question is, do you see my screen now?
I do not see your screen.
Now.
Now I see your
Now
screen.
it's there. Yes, perfect. So what you're looking at now is our migration tool, Cloud Cover Migration. And essentially, it's an application that gets deployed on the customer server, meaning you can
Okay.
keep everything within your own firewall as a migration customer, which is pretty
Okay.
neat, I think. Yeah. So there's no security threats going over any weird internet connections. So
Okay.
yeah. So the first part of beginning a migration is to establish connections. We're going from an on-premise to a Qlik Cloud. So we
Okay.
need to create this kind of access inside the tool.
Right.
So what you're looking at now is a tab overview of different types of connections. So for example, here we have the Qlik Cloud connections. I have one set up already for our Qlik Cloud tenant.
Okay.
And essentially how it works, it's just a tenant URL to know where we're going, and then an API key to actually be able to import apps and create spaces in an automated way.
So the first thing anybody doing this would have to do, they would have to be a developer role so that they are allowed to get an API key that they can issue. How long do they have to set that API key up to last? Is it a short time thing? Will it refresh itself? Or do they have to make sure as long as if I'm going to be doing migrations for a month, I need to enable that API key for a month?
Yeah, so by default, we recommend like a year typically, because
Okay.
with our tool, the migration should not last that long. So neither should the API key. That is kind
Yeah.
of the approach we take. So
Okay.
we are quick, and so should the API key
Okay.
exploration be.
Fantastic. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Easy
uh,
to do.
very, very easy. So similarly, we have the Qlik Sense on-premise connection, and that is essentially the same. You would give it a URL that's a virtual proxy to your Qlik Sense tenant, and then you can generate an API key. It's a bit more
Okay.
difficult than the Qlik Cloud version, but we provide a guide for doing everything step by
How
step.
to go through the QMC to do this or whatever.
Exactly. So
Okay.
instead of going through the QMC, doing the manual process, we do it automatically as well, because
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
yeah, we need to save as much time as possible, Dalton. That's the approach.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And
So
it looks like you had a couple connections because on-prem, I might have a test server, development server, a prod server, a gaming server. I don't know how many tenants people might have on-prem.
exactly.
So you can have connections for each of those things then. Okay.
Yeah, because what we see is it's not often that you go from just one Qlik Sense on-premise to one Qlik Cloud. Typically, it's for bigger organizations at least, it's 3 to 1 or 3 to 3 or whatever this kind of mapping. So we need to be able to support multiple.
Yep. I
Yeah.
like it. Okay.
Yeah. So what you can then do, if let's say you have multiple mappings you have to do, you can create projects. And essentially, a project is just a way of doing this mapping, knowing to go from this Qlik on-premise connection to this Qlik Cloud connection.
Okay.
And you can have multiple to support a multi-migration process.
And so from the project, you could be one-to-one. Hey, this on-premise tenant goes to this cloud tenant. Can you also kind of narrowly define those projects where you're saying, I want my HR data and applications to be a project, and my payroll team has their own apps, and accounting has their own apps, and sales has their own apps? You can kind of narrowly define those?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we actually advocate for, that if you have different business units, you separate those into different projects as the migration goes. So we can focus on one area, move on to the next, and ensure everything is perfect quality.
Nice. Martin, how do you recommend, or Michael, how do you recommend to your clients which applications they should be trying to do this for first?
So part of this, we have a Qlik application that Elias will show in a bit, that actually is built on top of the SaaS readiness application.
Okay.
So actually get all the things that the Qlik actually provides for how to assess the applications and what can actually be migrated. But on top of that, we actually also have a special column or field that we actually do a calculation on. So you can actually do your custom logic in the business. So like if you know you have something that is troublesome for you, you can actually mark those applications that shouldn't be migrated, or you can, there might be some depending dependencies on before we can actually migrate them. So we can actually also guide the different business units in what they should migrate at what time.
So your recommendation, hey, follow the migration readiness tool that Qlik provides.
Yeah.
If it says it's super easy, that might be your first one we should go with. Right. And if it's more complicated, and in terms of complications, it's that there's a lot of moving parts, perhaps, and there's more things they're going to have to think about and prepare for.
And mostly it's mostly like getting access to the data we see is the issue or the challenge, that when you're moving to the cloud, you have maybe some on-premise systems that you need to figure out how to actually access that data. Are you going to push that to the cloud, or actually going to enable access from the cloud to that on-premise? And those things just take some time. It's not particularly difficult, but it just takes some time, and also find the right way of doing it for the business.
So they might need to make sure they set up like an on-premise data gateway if they need to look at, hey, how do we make sure that this data is secure that's coming from some finance app that we want secured on-prem, and we're just going to put that data up into the cloud that way. Good idea.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I like to recommend to companies thinking about doing the moving is, let's move the apps that you need functionality in the cloud, right? There's usually some wonderful functionality they're trying to look for in the cloud. Let's move those apps that you know that you're going to modify to take advantage of some of the cloud functionality that's out there, and then, you know, prove those things along. And once you got some return on your investment there, keep moving things forward. So, okay. So you can either make, hey, we're just pushing everything out there. I've got 5 apps. I'm a small little company. Let's just move all 5 at one time. Or, hey, I've got 2,000 apps and I've got 14 business units. We can make a project per business unit if we want.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
so now we've set some projects up, and let's go ahead. How do you then pick and choose apps that you want to as part of the projects?
Yeah, great question, Dalton. So that was one of the things we considered ourselves. How should the user be able to select the different objects they want to be migrated? So which streams and which apps? And the kind of obvious answer for us was, why not use Qlik? Why not use what we already know as a Qlik customer?
See,
so what we did.
That's what wizards do. They just, why not use Qlik to do this?
Exactly. So as Michael mentioned, we build upon the SaaS readiness app from Qlik to utilize all the information that the customer want to know when they migrate. So which apps are too large and which data connections can be migrated, this kind of thing. And there's added a layer of the migration service on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can go here in the app that gets deployed with service. Inside this sheet, the project selection sheet, you can then select the project that you have created in the tool.
Okay.
And when you select this, you'll see up here that now this project ID is selected inside the app.
All right.
Meaning whatever is about to happen when I select information, this will be bound to that project and only that project. So I can still do the separation that I need for my migration.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So let's try and fill out some migration information here.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first sheet you see here is shared spaces. And generally, we have these kind of different sheets in the app that kind of represents parts of the migration.
Okay.
So the first 3 ones will be streams, how to migrate those. So as shared spaces, managed spaces, and optionally data spaces. And then apps, data connections, and some extra cool features that I'll show you at the end here.
Nice.
So the way it works is when this app is reloaded, we'll pull in all the information about the on-premise tenant and then display it as you see here. So in this left-hand column, I got all of my streams on my current tenant. And as you know in Qlik, I can use selections to narrow down what I want to see. So for example, I have this stream called testing. When I select this, I only see what I need to see. And the way I fill out this information is I got this overview of the current state. So the current stream name, the current stream owner. And then I can select, should this stream be included when I migrate? Should this stream be migrated as a shared space? If I say yes, then I have these options of overriding the current stream name. So maybe I want to give it a new name than it has now. I might want to give it a new owner as well. And then I can set the individual rights or roles inside the space. So for example, here I have given the can view role to my group Qlik Access, and the can edit role to the group Qlik Access, and my coworker Christopher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now where did that default shared space name come in?
So what we also find when we migrate is it's a good idea to kind of, when you go from the stream structure to a space structure in the Qlik Cloud, to what can you say, accentuate which environments are which. So shared spaces are like development space streams, and production spaces, managed spaces are like production spaces, right? So inside the project settings that I showed you here before, you actually get the option of setting a prefix and suffix, a postfix for all spaces that you migrate.
I like it. I like it. And especially for those large companies out there that have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spaces. This is good progress. And I think it also brings forth the thought process on your dev tenant on-prem. It's clearly dev, right? It may even have dev in the tenant name, your URL. In the cloud, you've got you've got a tenant, and you've got spaces. And so, yeah, I like that idea of, predefining some names, but it did look like you allowed them to say, I don't want that default name. In this case, I know I want it to be called ABC.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Also, just a comment, like we also use this for, like if you have a business unit that they want to separate out, like who is owning the different spaces in the cloud. So like this might be finance. So we can actually do like div_finance_ testing. So like you can also use it for separation of responsibility. Okay.
And you can assign who that owner is right there.
As well as that, yeah, but also just in the naming. So like
very cool.
The tenant owner, the tenant admin actually can see who owns the different spaces.
Yep.
So that's pretty useful.
Very cool. All right.
Exactly.
Now let's say in this case, I don't want testing to go to a shared space. I'd rather it go to the managed space.
Yes. Then you'll go to the managed spaces sheet, and then include it in the project here.
Okay. But so I would uncheck it and
include it in the shared spaces sheet.
Include it there. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Exactly. So you get this separation of controlling actually which one should be included as both, or maybe just as one. So that's a very neat feature, we think. Now, obviously, when you migrate, then typically the apps are the most important, right? These are the ones you actually get the business value out of. So as you see here, I'm now on the application migration sheet. Okay. Now, since it's a Qlik application, I can utilize the selection still. So the stream I chose before has again narrowed down what I see.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you see, I got the 3 apps in my on-premise tenant in this space.
Yep.
And just like before, I can include it in my migration, but now I get some different options because we are not looking at streams, we're looking at apps now. So I can select how should the export type be? Should it be without data or with data?
Okay.
There's good control if you have an app that should never be reloaded again. It has the perfect data right now. It's a historical app. Yeah. Don't you ever touch it. Then you can do it with data and you'll be certain that everything looks as it should be, right?
Yep.
Also, we have the expert scope. So we've had some customers where some of the users, they just go bananas in the private sheets, and they have 100 private sheets that are really don't have any business value, and they don't want these to be included as they migrate. Right. So what the expert scope can do is control kind of the object type that gets exported with the app. So if I were to select approved for this app, only the approved objects, meaning sheets and bookmarks, would then be included. Yeah, so you have this kind of control of, let's keep it all professional as we migrate. Don't include all the weird private sheets that you may have.
Cool. And it looks like you've got really good defaults for these things. So if I've got hundreds of apps, but there's 2 of them I know I need to change those 2. I can get 98 automated and I go change 2.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's, I think that's the cool thing when you've done this before yourself, then you kind of know what does the user also need. They
Yep.
probably need the without data more than the with data. Yeah. And like before, you can then override the name of the object. This time it's an app. And then
Okay.
select the shared and managed space that the app should reside in.
Okay.
And by default, if you have selected a stream that is also being migrated, it will just automatically find the name that was given to that stream
Okay.
in the, yeah. So if I just want everything to be as on-premise, I just keep everything as is, and it will move everything
Sweet.
automatically. Yeah. Now, yeah, just to touch upon data connections quickly, we can move data connections automatically as long as they are one-to-one in the Qlik Cloud and Qlik on-premise environment. Yeah, exactly. That deserves a
This
clap.
is one of the key things, right? It's easy to export apps. Yeah, hey, I could go through and do these manually. I export it, I import it, and I'm missing data connections all over the place.
Exactly.
And you guys are actually, hey, you're going to walk through, find all the data connections. It looks like you've got all kinds of different data connection types there.
Yeah.
All the ones that we would have, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So as long as they exist in the Qlik Cloud, we can
Okay.
do it one-to-one. That's super quick, super easy. And then just to show you here, what we think is a very cool functionality is the search replace. Now, as you go from on-premise to Qlik Cloud, there are some differences. For example, if you have a lib load, so the lib and then the path.
Yep.
In on-premise, you can have the backslash. This will work beautifully,
Right.
but it won't work in Qlik Cloud, unfortunately. Then you need to replace it with a front slash.
Right.
And that is a pain to do manually. I have found myself.
This is true.
Yeah. So what we did is say, why not go into all apps and just search replace stuff as we migrate them automatically?
Way cool.
Yeah. And then we also allow our customers to manually design search patterns and search replace patterns to just do it themselves. If they have something they know needs to be replaced, set it here, and then all apps will be updated accordingly.
Wow.
That's our reaction as well, Dalton. We love this.
If you're watching this, I'm sure you're thinking, who cares? Where would I need to do a replace? I think if we do the demo of moving something, we're going to see, oh, shoot, yeah, this is wrong and it needs to be replaced. So very cool. Now, before we move on to the demo where you're going to actually move some data here, some apps and the connections, talk to me about this progress bar at the bottom. Is that a custom extension or something that you guys are using, or what?
It should be. It should be. It is just built for this application, but we thought about making it like a production because it's beautiful.
So it is an extension for you. You guys just don't release it for others yet.
Oh, it's just manual, this one. But we've thought about making like
Okay.
a customized extension because it's pretty cool, isn't it?
That is very neat graphically. Gives me really good feedback that I've still got a couple of things I need to finish before I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start seeing some stuff move, man.
Let's move into it. So when we finish filling out this information, we can then go back to our migration service here and start running jobs.
Okay.
So essentially what a job is, it's basically a sequence of migration steps. So what we have done is we have looked at the entire migration process and tried to break it down into smaller steps.
Okay. That
So
makes
as you
sense.
see here, yeah. So we have different tabs here, kind of representing the different parts of a migration, things you can move. So for spaces, you can create them, you can add assignments, and then you can update the space owners. These are 3 different steps.
And so you could run just this step, go out and look in your cloud and make sure that the spaces and everything are set up, look at details to see who owners are. Once you know it's good, then you could roll through to a job to exporting the applications.
Exactly, because what we see with customers is they hear automated and they think, oh no, can I control it? It will just go automatically and go rogue. So we needed this kind of, exactly. So we need this kind of step-by-step procedure to allow the customer just you can do everything as you would manually, just
Very
much
cool.
quicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and one important step about the spaces also, when you're ready to release it, you can actually apply all the access groups. So actually they will be public for the users at the tenant. Until you're ready, they're just hidden. So this is sort of like one of the steps you can do for like going public or going into production. You just assign the spaces.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Nice.
So I've kind of cheated a bit from home here and already created the jobs that we're going to see today, but they have a pretty clear separation of what they do. So the first one is the create spaces job. And what it does is these 3 steps, as I showed you before. It will create the spaces, add assignments, and update the owners.
All right.
Now, as I showed you before inside this shared spaces sheet, I selected the stream called testing to be included with this new name, dev testing, and these rights assigned to these groups and users.
Okay.
So if I go to my tenant now and I search for this space, it doesn't exist. But let's try and run the create spaces job and see if we can make some real magic here. So now I can start the job. I can go to the log. I can see the job will start to run now.
Nice.
So
okay.
if I go back to my my Qloud tenant here, then I have my space created.
Nice. Now, how does that actually happen? Do you have a staff of people looking at this and they're actually trying to hand do it for people, or like what's really going on behind the scenes here, man? This seems
Well,
like
that was the first version, right? So
Yeah.
then we sort of like, that was too expensive. Then we sort of like did it with some command line, and then we sort of like that sort of doesn't really scale to like as a tool for like an enterprise, right? We have some very large customers migrated, so this is actually running straight on the Qlik APIs in a service.
Nice, and that's why you needed that API key.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So as Michael mentioned, I was the guy that used to do this quickly, but now then I found out I can actually code this and make it automatic, make my job very much easier.
And probably far few typing errors by doing it automatically than when you were going quickly.
Exactly. I was in a rush.
Yeah,
that is actually a really good point. Actually, also it's repeatable. You can roll. You can like redo it multiple times if you need to. So it's also like reduces the errors. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So so now I think our first job here should be a run to the end.
Okay.
So we should be seeing the space has been created. And when
I
go to members,
I got no apps.
No apps yet. No apps.
Oh,
but,
no. Okay, but now we can verify what the security is.
Yeah, we can see that it matches what I put in my
perfect
in my choice here of these groups. Everything looks beautiful.
It does look beautiful.
But as you said, where are the apps? Where are the important apps? Let's try and fix that. We'll go back here. We'll run this export application step first of all.
Okay.
When I run this, what it will do is it will go in and select the apps that I chose inside the Qlik application and then export them down locally to my server.
Okay.
As QVF files.
And again,
depending on
this is on their local on-prem server. When you said mine, I don't want them to think you meant your serverless. It's
on their
local server. This is just like if they were backing up by hand onto their local server. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now I have them, they will have them on their server, and they will be able to import the apps to the spaces they selected for each application. So when I run this import apps job that has the import application step, what will happen is we can see the job is starting. And then when I go to my Qloud tenant here, just a bit, I will see some apps starting to roll in to my created space here.
Nice.
And then one by one, they come in.
Very cool. And the time taken here is people are looking at this. If you've watched Dorkcast before, I for times like this, I don't edit things out and try to make things faster. In that time, you were you were calling an API, uploading the app. So the time to move it off of the local on-prem server up to the tenant, get the APIs finished, so everything's wrapped up and completed. Now we've got our apps out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of those apps.
Yeah. So we got this load data from HR storage. And now, as the name suggests, this is an app that on-premise used a HR storage connection.
Okay.
So if we go in here, we can see we have these 4 loads using a connection.
Uh-oh.
But the problem is, yeah, we have a big problem now, Dalton.
Yeah, we
Don't
do.
we?
That ain't right, man. That looks
ain't
like
right.
it's on-prem code, dude.
Yeah, so the entire migration might just be a waste of time, right? Except we can actually create.
Exported it with data so that we would.
Yeah.
The next guy would have to worry about this.
Exactly. Yeah. No, actually, we can fix this, and there's essentially 2 steps to it, because first of all, we don't have the connection in Qlik Cloud, only in Qlik Sense on-premise. And additionally, when you move to Qlik Cloud, there is a change in how this lib path is formatted, because on-premise you had the connection just kind of globally, but now you actually need to have it residing in a space.
Yeah.
And that's where things changing. So this format won't work despite the connection being there.
This is going to be the wow.
It is going to be the wow.
If you're paying attention at home, this is going to be the wow right now. So how would I fix this now? How would I get the connections out there and change my code to use the right connection?
Let's try and do that. So we'll go back here to my jobs. As you see, I have this create data connections job with the create data connections step. Now, as I showed you before in the data connections, I had selected a particular connection that I knew was going to be needed in Qlik Cloud. And that was this one that the app is using. And I said, put it in the dev testing space. So everything is set up and ready for it to be created in the Qlik Cloud.
Now, that's an interesting point that you had picked those. Do you find customers, Martin and Michael, that might say, hey, I want to be secure. I don't want to move connections until I'm ready to put my apps up there. Or do you have some customers like, hey, just move all the data connections, one fell swoop, and I'll worry about them when I get to them?
Well, it's usually like a mix. There's usually some data that's just into the cloud for that, and then there's like usually the maybe HR data that they're more sensitive about, that we sometimes have to find a more specific solution, or actually use the on-premise, the direct data gateway for accessing that data. So it's yeah.
So that you've got a mix. That's why you're not just moving all 400 of my data connections.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now is the demo of the migration tool, and this is where things goes fast, right? This is where we speed up the migration time a lot, because we're just moving things. Yeah. Where you would typically spend time in a migration product with our migration tool is to define and make sure you do the right things in the right order. So split it up a little bit. Look at what kind of connections do we need to move? Do we need to do anything with the connections? What things do we not want to move? Just sit down and do that piece of work with a number of workshops with your customer, and then go. So that's where you will spend most of the time. And then the migration, as you see, that's super quick. And then if you're wrong, if you made a mistake or you change your mind, you can just redo the migration. Of course, you go through and change whatever you want. But this is typically
a great point. So yeah, customers could reach out today, right? They could pick up the phone today. Here's my credit card. I need this tool on site. I'm doing a migration in a month. They purchase it from you. They download the software. They read your documentation or watch videos. They never talk to you again.
Nope, not if they don't want to. We're there.
You guys do have your own consulting services as well. So they could purchase the product and purchase hours to make sure that they get walked through. Do you work with any other Qlik partners, like other resale partners that could maybe sell this, and they have consultants who are familiar with your tool to help customers as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing that for a while, and we look forward to do that even more, because first of all, we're based in Scandinavia. We cannot cover the whole world, and we're not that big. We're like 45, 50 people. We would love to have our partner friends all over the world using this, and we will help them get onboarded and get started. And then we're super happy if they're self-sufficient by using our migration tool in their respective part of the world. So yeah.
Cool. And there could be administrators out there who maybe they do administration for multiple different companies, and they could probably use the tool by themselves.
Yeah.
For others, the tool is incredibly cool, but those points brought up, there could be, let's have some project management involved in doing this. Don't just press the buttons in order and assume everything's going to be right.
Yeah, and I think one important thing to mention is that some people who are watching this, they might think, okay, why are you giving away consulting services? Why are you making things so fast? We're supposed to do a lengthy project, and what we've seen is that you actually move the budget to the fun stuff instead. You don't spend all your money migrating from A to B, and then you're done, and then the money is gone. You migrate from A to B a lot quicker, and you have your budget still to do the cool stuff in Qlik Cloud, to build on top of whatever cool functionality you want in Qlik Cloud, the AutoML and so on. So it's rather moving the customer's budget to the fun stuff than just spending it doing migration.
I love that idea, because there are a lot of customers moving to cloud because they want that cloud functionality.
Yeah.
They want the AI, they want the Insight Advisor, they want to be ready for quick answers, they want the data integration solution as part of the cloud stuff, they want automations, and that helps them. So let's get back to data connections. The one connection that was there was Azure. I know I would need security for my Azure directories. Do you guys you move the connection names? Do you actually move the users and passwords or API keys or whatever is needed for each connection as well?
No. So that is the one part we don't move. We move everything else except the authentication part.
Okay.
So that is one thing you just have to go in and do, which takes about 10 seconds. So you've still speed up the process with a large amount.
All right. So let's see how we get that Azure connection move now.
Yeah. So as I showed you before here, this connection should be here, but it's not currently here.
No connections hiding up my sleeves.
There's no secret connections. But when I run this job called create data connections, I can go to the log and see when it will start.
You love showing off that log, don't you?
I've spent a lot of time on this log. It's my favorite part of the entire product. So we see now.
It's really useful. It's really useful when you're doing stuff.
I am an audit trail
200
guy.
applications.
You saw my code and saw how many trace statements. I click sense code.
That's why you need the log.
Yeah, you know a real developer if you see trace and you see comments.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, so the job ran. I should have a connection out there.
Yeah. So when I go back here and I refresh
the screen, boom.
And you get the drum roll. And now we have a connection.
And you push the connection to the right space. Because it's not showing up in my personal space.
Nope.
It's showing up where it should be.
Exactly where I defined it to be. Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it. Okay.
Yeah. So if I try to select data now, as I spoke about, no authentication. So I need to go in and I need to re-authenticate this connection. Now, luckily, this is a quite clean process if you know your codes, of course. But you have a password manager, right, Dalton? So you know all of the codes.
I've got Post-it notes all over my desk with that.
That's a password manager, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's the oldest password manager.
I just can't take my camera and scan it around my desk.
But now you see we have a connection succeeded.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, but still, even though I can get data now and I can get data back from the connection, I still don't have the right formatting for the space. I need to have the space in front followed by a colon and then the connection name. So I can then run the next job called update application scripts with this single step called update application script as well. When I run this, what will be done is the service will go through all of the applications that I have migrated and then search replace every instance of that connection or all the connections that I've migrated, updating the format to the correct one in all of the apps.
Very cool. And we're just showing one very simple one here, but there could be a lot of these things, right? That's one of the hardest problems I have when I document applications that I do for people. I create a lot of how-to guides. here's an application, put it on your site. Now let me spend 15 pages walking you through how to hand create each of these connections, how to change it in the code, put your name in the code, because I know that Martin isn't going to follow my advice and name it this. He's going to want his own fancy schmancy name, like Patrick or something. And
Exactly.
yeah, most of my documentation is just about the connections.
Yeah, we see that a lot as well.
So
So
you've
it makes
updated the
sense.
scripts now.
Yeah. So when I come back here and I refresh, I want to be seeing this space format for all the connections. So we get a quick refresh. We go to this section. And now we're seeing we have the right format as we're expecting.
Cool.
And this could be 1,000 apps where otherwise I'd have to do this manually. That would be a long time to go in each one, search for place.
Yep.
I don't want to do that, Dawson.
No, I hear that. And notice, folks, that it's dev testing : here, because that's the space name and then the name of the connection, because the connection name still looked a lot similar, but it does have it in the right format. And again, as you mentioned, it could be 1,000 apps.
Yeah.
For
And the reason
for
why
your time's sake, we didn't have them demo 1,000 apps and prove to you it worked for 1,000 apps. It was really going through. And again, the beauty and the heart of this is it utilizes all of these open APIs that Qlik publishes, so that work like changing the load scripts for you can automatically be done. Yeah, this is really cool. So now it would be ready and we could actually load data now.
Now we can begin loading data. So see, now we got some dummy data coming in, and then we can, like always, see our beautiful dashboards in action. And I'm just kidding, because this is a very
did those
not cool
XLS
dashboard.
files actually get from my on-premise to the tenant?
Excuse me?
How did my actual XLS files get from my on-premise to my cloud tenant?
So what we did is just create the connection that we had on premise in the Qlik Cloud, and then we just loaded the data.
But the XLS file would have existed like on my local C drive. How did the file itself get into the cloud?
Maybe you can take that, Michael?
No, it's just I think like on premise we were also using for this demo we're also using the Azure connection. So actually the file was already uploaded to the cloud.
It's in Azure.
So we're running from the cloud in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Very cool.
So for that one, if you have them on premise, there are ways of moving those files to the cloud as well. We actually have some documentation on it, like we can do, but it's usually different from the different ways of doing it and different clouds you have.
Okay, nice. And that alone is a good illustration of the beauty of cloud data, where I have these buckets, these files that are shared. I can look at them on-prem and I can look at them in the cloud, as opposed to my actually having things on my hard drive that I can only see on-prem. So very cool. So now we got the app up and running. Woohoo!
So now you are pretty much partly migrated, but obviously we have some other steps as well. So for applications, we can also publish these applications.
Okay.
And not shown in this demo is also the reload application step that you usually do after you import apps.
Okay.
And this is just to see which of these apps that I've migrated, which of them need work, which of them are just working after they're migrated. Which one should I focus my time on
So in
trying
the
to
case
fix?
of that one test app we looked at, it needed connect data from a connection.
Yeah.
And we would have seen that it failed, and then would have known, oh geez, I needed to move my connections. I didn't move my connections first.
Exactly.
Or geez, I moved my connections. I did everything, but I forgot that part about updating the script code.
Exactly. Yeah. So this would generate a CSV file with a complete overview of all the reloads of all apps. So you can kind of go through one by one and check them off as you fix them. which is very
Yep.
crucial in the migration process.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And of course, you'd
Yeah.
have a log for all that would show me that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also we can export and import users. So as long as you have users using email addresses, which is very common, fortunately, then we can just move them one-to-one
Okay.
with the licenses as well. And similarly for extension and themes, this should not be a tough manual labor job. It should be quick. And that's why we added these steps as well.
Nice. So if I had that cool progress bar extension thing that you had on-prem, how do you move my extensions? How would you move my extensions? Because I've had them in a zip file. I uploaded them, but they got unzipped. They're put into my environment. How do you move them?
So what we actually do is we just take the zip file again, and then we push it to the cloud, essentially.
So you create a zip file from my extension. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
And then perhaps the coolest part is when I'm done with this demo, all I need to do to clean up my tenant is run this reset job that has all these delete steps.
And
what
where are you
this does,
deleting it from?
so we're deleting everything from the cloud tenant. So if you're in a migration process, and let's say you've started a migration for a customer, but you found out maybe the customer made an error on one of the apps and want you to remigrate. Then instead of having to delete everything manually that you migrated, you just run these steps and it will delete everything that you have in that project and only that. So nothing else will get affected but the ones that you actually imported to begin with.
Okay. So that could be, you could do this as a test. We're going to do a test migration this weekend.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait and delete everything so that we could do the real migration next week. We know exactly what steps are. We know what steps we forgot. We know we've got to put a new password in for this connector or whatever.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So essentially rinse and repeat steps.
Yeah. Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So now I've got all this beautiful environment. I'm up and running in my cloud. The first day I'm up there, Michael goes out and he makes a change to an app. Now my app in cloud is different. What the heck am I going to do from a DevOps standpoint to make sure this stuff gets backed up?
I would advise you to use Cloud Cover Backup, which is our other
I would advise
product.
myself to have done that too, because I deleted my own automation last week.
You're not the first one, Dalton. So what you're looking at now is the Cloud Cover Backup running on our demo environment here. And as you see, the GUI is kind of different. It's a bit prettier maybe, but essentially it's the exact same working backend as we like it here in Stretch.
Okay.
So in the top here, you see I am signed in as myself on this. It's basically running like an app service. So in the cloud, you would log in as you would in Qlik, basically.
And now this is a SaaS app.
Yeah.
So this is running in the cloud, not on-prem, because obviously we're now in the cloud. We don't care about that on-prem stuff. We got rid of all our Windows things last week. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're actually thinking about also doing this for on-premise because you have some customers that still want of course you always do, right? So this will also be a on-premise version, but for now we run SaaS style.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So like before, we have this tab set, and also like before, we have connections. Now the difference here is instead of having Qlik Cloud and on-premise connections, we have Qlik Cloud and storage connections.
Okay.
So when we do backups of objects from Qlik to somewhere else, we have this reference to a storage.
And now that storage, people are going to be concerned about security here. I'm not going to lie. Who owns that storage?
That is the customer. And that is a very important point for us, that it's bring your own storage, or BYOS, I think is the perfect abbreviation for that, right?
Introducing new acronyms. That sounds like something a hockey guy would do. Just throw out acronyms and make them make sense later. Bring your own storage. I love that. Who would have?
Yeah.
I'm getting old. Who would have ever thought that was a thing? Like that's so cool. Okay. They own that storage.
Yeah. They keep all the security, everything for themselves. We just handle the cool stuff in the background.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you finish setting this up, again, you go to projects. And now, difference with projects is, of course, you have Qlik Cloud and storage connection instead of Qlik Cloud and on-premise. But you
Okay.
also have this source and target, as you see.
Right. Yep.
You might be thinking, why is there a source and target? Isn't just the same? You back up and restore to. But what we also can do with Cloud Cover Backup is multi-tenant restores. So if I have tenant A and tenant B, I can back up tenant A and I can restore to tenant B.
Cool.
And tenant B might be a fresh tenant that's completely without anything.
Okay.
So I can kind of just copy an entire environment to a new fresh environment and then have them looking exactly the same.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is pretty cool with like all the new regions Qlik are launching. So like if you are in one
Yep.
region and you like need to move some of your tenant or maybe all your tenant to a new region, or the other use case is really useful is like if you need to enable the always encrypted, like bring your own encryption key, you can't do that with anything in the tenant. So you can actually set up a new tenant, then you can just back up and restore everything over to the new tenant, and you're up and running on the bring your own encryption key.
Okay, now this is similar for projects here. I like that you've kept the interface simple from connections, projects. Can I for the project say, hey, I only want these 3 spaces to get backed up?
Yes, you can. So that will be the next part of the tab set here. So backup jobs and restore jobs.
Okay.
So we can try and create a new backup job here.
Let's do it.
I give it a name. I say cool backup job because this is super cool. And then I select the project that I showed you before. This way I'm utilizing the exact same source and target Qlik Cloud connection as well as the same storage connection.
Okay.
Then I get an option here saying object selection, and now I can choose between manual and auto. And auto is for the cases where you just want a backup of everything you have on the tenant to just run on a schedule. Maybe every Monday you want to take a weekly backup and you don't want to specifically target objects. You just want everything you have.
Okay.
Where with manual, you can go in and retrieve an entire list of your objects and then select which ones you want to back up, as with the 3 spaces you mentioned, Dalton.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So when I press this retrieve objects button here,
wow,
I am now pulling out all the information from the APIs for all spaces, all apps, all automations, etc., from my Qlik Cloud tenant. And now, depending on your tenant size, this can take 10 to 20 seconds typically.
Yeah, for our partner engineering tenant, it may take a minute because we've got a lot of apps out there. We got a demo for every flavor of everything. All right.
Yeah. So what you see now, it has successfully retrieved your objects, and I get this tab set overview of the different object types in my cloud. So I have spaces, apps, automations, etc. And now for each of them, I have a select where I can select all the spaces that are currently on my tenant. So, for example, I could find this Cloud Cover demo space. I can then add it. And when I add it, it gets added to my table down here, where I get this kind of overview of what I've currently selected for this particular job.
Nice.
And just to show you now, for spaces, I have some options to show, for example, assignments. So I can see what is the current assignments, and I can verify this was the space that I intended to back up.
I think this is fascinating because so many people would think, I got to back up my apps. I got to back up my apps. I got to back up my apps.
Yeah.
What you're looking at here is what really is involved. Like the apps don't exist on their own. They're part of spaces, and spaces exist for security. So that security is really, really important to make sure that you know what those assignments are versus, I think I allowed Bob and Fred and Sally. This way you're actually backing up all that security. And then you can go through apps.
Here, yeah.
So you can pick the apps. And I'm only seeing the apps that were part of the space I selected, right?
Exactly. So when I selected this space, all the apps were added automatically to that.
Fantastic. Now here's what absolutely blew my mind, folks, when I saw this at Connect last week. That next tab. That's insane. Now you don't have any. I can give you a few hundred. The crazy thing there. Oh, you do have a bunch. You just hadn't chosen.
Yeah, 100
I had a lot.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot. We just haven't chosen anyone yet.
Nice. And that's beautiful. And also you can say, hey, I want to back up my data connections.
Yeah.
Because
That's really
anybody,
useful.
like, they're separate from the app. Somebody could go out there and delete them, and you are completely hosed.
Exactly.
And the extensions, and even the themes for coloring. I dig that. Like, you guys have thought about everything. That last one, though, that is mind-boggling. I wish I had that. Because again, that's a hard part. When I hand people an app, and I'll usually give it to them with data, they can't reload that app unless they export all that data back into QVDs somehow so that they could do a reload then, because I'm not giving them access to all my actual connections, right? I'm handing them data.
Exactly.
This would be cool. So you can actually back up QVDs, XLS files, things that are in those data directories. Crazy cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, like in the last demo, I actually treated different home as well. So I have this demo backup job already set up, and I've already run it. And as you
Okay.
saw in the apps overview, you could select with or without data when you back up apps. So you can kind of control should they be
Right.
with data or without. I've already run this backup job for these apps in the Cloud Cover demo space that I have in here.
Okay.
So this entire space is backed up with
Okay.
data.
Now
So,
don't accidentally delete this. Don't let me distract you and have you
oh,
accidentally delete that app.
I would never do that, though. Never.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh no. Oh man.
but I wouldn't
That's a
delete this
shame,
one.
right?
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Oh no. But at least I'm not deleting the space, right? That would be
Yeah.
very
Yeah. We don't want
oh.
Martin to distract you and have you delete the whole entire space and all the
Yeah.
security.
It's all my
I,
fault.
th I
Yeah.
think it's gone now, Dalton. I think it's
That
completely gone.
that would be bad.
Oh.
That's bad. Somebody's about to
Hopefully,
lose their job. If
I
there's
think I
any really good coders out there, please reach out to Martin. He's got an opening here soon.
I think it's time for the real BI wizard to step up, right? So what I can do, hopefully to save my job, is to run a restore job. And if you see this, I have this already created demo restore job.
Yep.
And just like before, I can go through and give a name and a project. And now I can select the backup job. So if I have multiple, I can select the specific one and
Okay.
then the instance of that backup job. So if it's running on a schedule, I can say, I want the exact backup run on Monday, the 24th of January. I want
Beautiful.
that state.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I was still like, I can back up everything. You
Yeah,
can
that
schedule those. Now,
yeah.
when you do the backup jobs, I'm assuming then in that space that they've allocated for their space, they're bringing their own space. You are these in zip files that have everything that got backed up, or is each QVF backed up individually with some file name, or it has the date in it, or what?
Yeah, so what we're storing is essentially metadata, and then depending on the object type, maybe also another file. So for
Okay,
example, with apps, then we have the QVF file, that's one part, but we also need the metadata for the app to know which space we're in and what
okay,
was the owner and this type of information.
very cool.
Yeah,
Okay, good. So you could pick the version then.
yeah,
In our case, obviously, folks, he was not accidentally deleting anything, though those were intentional. We're going to restore everything. But if it truly was accidental, I mean, if a hockey player accidentally deleted something that somebody really needed, that's the beauty of democratizing development. People are going to make mistakes in a democratized world, right? Typically,
exactly.
certainly there are hardcore developers. They have hardcore development mentality, backups. They think that way. Sally Sue, who's a business analyst, but now can change screens, may be given permissions to be able to edit everything, and she accidentally deletes mine. and that could be a problem. So you could, we're obviously going to restore the space, all the apps. You could just check the app that you want to be restored from, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
So
Okay.
this could be a full tenant backup, and I just want one specific app. Then I retrieve everything like as I did with the backup job, but I only select the one that I need to restore.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to add also, like in this demo, I'm going to restore everything as it was to the exact same space. But what I could also do is actually change how the restore state should be. So maybe I have not been clumsy and deleted an app. Maybe I just want to see how did that specific instance of the app look at that time compared to my current version, and then compare them side by side, right?
Nice.
So what I could do instead is just change the name. I could call it copy.
Yeah.
I could select a new owner, and then I could also select the new space
So
that it
you
should be
can put it
located
in
in.
personal space so that
Yeah.
you don't confuse anybody. Because that one of the other problems I have these days is I duplicated an app so that I can make some changes, make sure it works before I restore. But then I've got, you know, business users that come into it and they see two copies of the apps. The first one is there, it's more recent than the other, so they click it. Because they're not looking at the fact that it says copy.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is really cool. I could restore the app to my personal space and then walk through the screen. Ah, that formula got changed.
Yeah.
That's what
But
happened.
that visualization or that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Martin went in to change a label and he actually changed the expression, Martin.
Yeah.
It happens too often, Dalton.
It could probably happen.
I understand. It might be me. I don't know. Cool. Okay.
So yeah, so now this demo result job is set up and ready to go. So let's try and save my job, hopefully.
Yes.
We'll run this. We'll see the job is running. And then when I go to my Qlik Cloud tenant here, I am waiting patiently for the space to be created. And there we go. Here's the space.
Oh no, the apps aren't there.
Here they are. Luckily, I
got
was
one
also a
app.
bit concerned. One app, and it's coming in with data, as we spoke about before.
Yep. Nice.
So now I see both of them are here. And if I go to my members tab here, I can see I have the exact same assignments that I did before. So everything is restored to its previous state.
Nice.
And because the apps were backed up with data, I can go directly in, and just as if nothing happened, I can continue to analyze my beautiful dashboard.
Nice. Nice. And some beautiful visuals as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. All right. So, folks, if you're watching from home, you've seen an awful lot today. You can absolutely cover your cloud from a DevOps standpoint. You can help make your life easier if you're moving to the cloud to get to that great functionality we've got that out there for you in SaaS. You can use Cloud Cover to make your life easy and get your stuff there, including the data, including connections, including your security that you have. And you'll be up and running in no time to be able to take advantage and get to those other things. Once you've got your cloud out there, your job is not done. You have got to ensure you've got good development operations going on, just like you had on-prem. And you've also got this Cloud Cover backup that can help you with that. Going forward, guys, I could imagine now that you've got everything out there, you've probably got customers saying, hey, I just need to restore a sheet, Martin. I don't want to restore the whole app. I just need that one sheet. Do you guys have on your roadmap to do things like that where you're going to let them replace a sheet, script code, keep the dashboard the same? Are you guys planning to do those kind of things?
Yep. So I don't know when, maybe, but quite soon. I know Michael and Elias would know, but we're constantly going to deliver more and more products within the Cloud Cover portfolio. So the next one is coming is the version control, which is going to let you do that.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's sort of a sister product to this. So it's based on what we learned through creating the backup solution. and we use that background to develop the version control as well.
Nice. And for now, you could kind of get there by, hey, I want to restore it to my personal space, copy, paste, done. There's your one sheet. There's your one chart. But yeah, I would imagine, you know, customers are a little bit greedy. First they just want this, and then they realize they also want this, and then they want that. And then they want the ESP feature where you just automatically start building functionality they didn't even know that they needed before. So great stuff. How do they reach out to you to get a hold of these products? What's the process for them?
Yeah, so easy is cloudcover.com. All the information is there. Contact details are there. That would be a perfect way of contacting us. Also, you showed our emails in the beginning. Just reach out, but cloudcover.com is the way to go. You can read more about the products here and set up that you're interested for trial and just contact us. We'll get back to you.
Oh man, we did not even look at the Cloud Cover right back.
You did
give me a brief synopsis of what that is.
It's part of the migration tool. You remember, you could change names and overwrite and change users and add whatever groups or user assignments and stuff like that. So that's part of the write back solution. We have more functionality as well.
I didn't even think of that. As you're using these screens and checking all these boxes, yeah, that data needed to be stored somewhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So that's a separate product that people can get if they want that ability as well.
Sure.
Very cool stuff. Okay, if you want to stop sharing your screen, Elias.
Yes.
And we can just kind of wrap up. Michael, what's one last thing you'd like to tell people who are watching this?
Well, I think it's like these solutions and also our approach to this is like you need to get into the cloud if you want to go, of course, but like this is actually changing the project from something that is like a long project to something that's very manageable to do and actually very easy to do as well. And also, of course, there's a lot of cool functionality in the cloud, but like you shouldn't be hampered by like a large migration project for going into the cloud as well with the backup project that's actually driven by the request from IT. Like they don't feel secure in the cloud. They need to provide the security of the data from the organization. So with the backup project, product, you can ensure that you actually can restore it back into the organization and the business and ensure that you have the uptime that you need and is required of you.
Nice. And Elias, that's one of the big things Michael said was about IT, right? A lot of people are thinking, hey, I'm moving to the cloud because I don't want to use IT, or I don't like the way they can, they have governance and they're worried about data quality and they slow me down. I want to do things fast. The solution you guys have for your backups especially is really for IT, right? It is a IT methodology that is in place so that IT administrators who may be worried, their fear with the cloud and decentralized development is, oh my gosh, these are just business analysts. They won't back up their stuff. They won't know how to do this. They'll cry to me, and then I'll have to try to recreate everything by hand. And so you're trying to give a peace of mind to them as well as that product methodology, right?
Yeah, this is their insurance, right?
That's a good way to call that too. I like that. Insurance. Martin, I'm going to let you go ahead and have the last word, buddy. What's the last thing you'd like to share?
I don't know. I think the easiness of doing this, if you're watching this and wherever you are in the world, these are SaaS enabled products, so you could utilize the tools whenever you are, wherever you are, and you don't have to import or install or do a lot of crazy stuff. You will be ready to get going within a couple of minutes. So I think that's the message for this. And of course, you are, as always, like you are with Qloud, able to do a trial. You can try our tools and see that, make sure you're happy, and then decide to go. So it's very easy to do this. So yeah, make it simple. That's what we try to do. Make it simple but clever.
Hey, that's awesome. That's the Qlik Dorks logo. Let's make it simple.
Yep.
I like it. And I like the way that you wrap the project management around the migration. You didn't say, oh, it's easy. Just press this easy button and we'll just do everything for you. Because you can make a lot of things automated, you can make them simpler, but there's still a lot of different moving parts that may need like connections. Hey, this is not a cloud source. This is an on-prem source, and our networking team is never going to open a firewall for you to read that data.
Yeah, and take the opportunity to
install
rethink
that gateway. Yeah.
Yeah, and take the opportunity to rethink, just not move one-to-one from A to B, because you might have apps and stuff that you had there for 10 years. So spend some time defining, because you have the luxury of defining a new process, a new structure, and do that properly, and then use our tool to just make it happen quick.
Very nice. Very nice. As always, folks, I sure hope that you have a great day.